Well, to start, I hope you are all safe out there, washing your hands constantly and not going where there are a ton of people, unlike, those choice members of our race that are especially stupid. But I wanted to also thank Indie by Design for sending me this beautiful piece of work. Seriously, it's a whole book about the Oddworld series called Oddworld's Abe's Origins, and it's kind of an art book / creation story of Oddworld, and oh my gosh, it's just, I want to talk about it all day to everyone that'll listen. But I also figured, what better time to play something like Munch's Oddysee than when I get an awesome book like this. So first, I'm going to review Munch's Oddysee, and then I'm going to talk about Oddworld Abe's Origins in depth, because, like I said, I'm very excited about this, and what can we say? Books are video games in wooden form. Books are especially like that when they're these kind, where you actually have to choose what you're going to do next in the page. Okay, I want them to go down the tunnel, so I have to flip to page 137. Ooh, whoops. I just killed 10 fictional children. That's what happens. If you're in Goosebumps, it gets real. Like, real quick. Put that down before I kill any more fake children. Okay, back on topic. Munch's Oddysee is very often looked at as the bastard child of the Oddworld series. And to be honest, I've never actually beaten it myself. So, what little bit I have played, I've actually enjoyed quite a bit. So without any further ado, let's throw this bad boy in and, well, let's hope we could keep a positive outlook on Munch. I don't know what could happen that would change that, but, I mean, you never know.
Stop, crap.
Okay, if you're unfamiliar with the Oddworld story, there are two games before Munch's Oddysee, Abe's Oddysee and Abe's Exodus, where our main man, Abe, goes from being a blundering idiot to an all-capable, fart factory, slave-saving, all-around kick-ass, blundering idiot. That sounds really dumb, but that's what makes Abe Abe, and I love him for it. Sorry, that's just me praising one of video games' most underrated protagonists. For real, he should be more highly praised than people like Master Chief or those idiotic meatheads from Gears of War, but here we are, and here I am again, completely off track, so let's go back to what we should actually be talking about. Basically, a really dumbed down version of what's going on in Oddworld is that there are two factions. Industrials, who are just f***ing up everything while enslaving and slaughtering other species in Oddworld for profit, and Free Oddworld, the inhabitants of Oddworld that are just trying to live their lives without being bred for slave labor or being cooked into the next snack cake till extinction. And this is when we meet Munch, the very last Gabbit. They have been fished into extinction for cruel experiments, used as involuntary organ donors, and because their eggs taste good on crackers. Munch is tricked into a trap and taken to be experimented on, where these ass-hat Vikers cut Munch open to give him an implant of sorts. Kinda like the plasmids from BioShock, but done way creepier.
Well, that's what happened.
Hey.
While this is going on, the almighty Raisin tells Abe he needs to go save Munch to bring his species back from the brink, while freeing hundreds of Mudokons, Abe's species, from slavery as well. We start going back and forth between Abe and Munch, learning the basics for each and what they can do. Before you know it, they run into each other and are told what to do by the mighty Raisin, which is save the Mudokons and force the Gluckons to forfeit their riches so that they can purchase the very last can of Gabiar, a can of 150 Gabbit eggs that holds the last chance for all Gabbit kind. Now, Abe and Munch begin to work together to save the day and a bunch of Mudokons and Gabbits. Oh, and these little guys called Fuzzles. Abe and Munch start to make their way through the harsh lands of Oddworld and slowly start saving people and forcing Gluckins to pay up. Munch's Oddysee released on the original Xbox back in 2001. It was initially meant to be released on the PS2 though, which honestly would have been much, much better. So I wouldn't have to deal with this on the original Xbox. And so, after that problem, I put it into my Xbox 360. Which, why the f*** did I expect that to be any help? If the original Xbox was having problems, then the 360 sure as shit won't work with it. It started up, but it sounded like everyone you talked to was at the end of a freaking long tunnel. And the disc is in perfect condition. Xbox. Okay, since I actually want to play the game, I'm going to have to buy it on a system that actually works properly. So, I bought it on the PS3 digitally and, well, we're just going to have to go about it that way. Munch's Oddysee was a huge leap for the look of the Oddworld franchise at the time. We went from these beautifully rendered backdrops that set the mood perfectly and added an artistic flair to every single screen with amazingly animated characters that stood out and really captured your imagination to these early 2000s 3D models. It doesn't feel as purposeful with its visuals as the first two games did, but for coming out in 2001, these are actually very well made models that don't get stuck on the game's environments too terribly often. And the factories are a dark and creepy setting for Abe and Munch to navigate. The rest of the game is of course up to the standards of the previous games though, cause if the book Oddworld Abe's Origins taught me anything, it's that the Oddworld team always went above and beyond. They put a ton of work into all of these games, and the story is always well told with an amazing undertones that make you think, like a lot. Some would say enough to drive one crazy. Not me though, I'm solid as a rock, or like a turtle that just ate way too much. There are problems with the camera though. That's right, Munch, I'm coming at you fast. It won't go through walls, which is normally a good thing until you get stuck between something like a wall and a freaking cliff or something. I don't know. Or if you're trying to see in front of you and you're in a tight space and the camera won't move because it's caught above you, which means I fell off a lot of ledges because I couldn't see where the hell I was going. And the controls are pretty fluid, which makes handling Abe easy. Munch, on the other hand, is like making a one-legged baby fumble from one place to another. Because, well, believe it or not, that's what he is. He can barely talk, ledges are scary, and the size of his head makes him fall over from time to time. And he floats surprisingly well. From here on, it's standard procedure for an Oddworld game. You find people to save while avoiding the enemies, or take control of them to make them kill each other. Classic and pretty damn entertaining. For the first couple of levels at least. Because for some ungodly reason, Munch's Oddysee plays out in a level-to-level format, which, if you're thinking the first two games before this were done the same way, well, at least when they did it sneakily, and in a manner that makes the whole game feel as if the action never actually stopped, and the flow of the game was never disturbed, even with cutscenes. But in Munch's Oddysee, every time you finish anything, there's either a lame load time or a newspaper spin into the next stage. All it's there for is to keep you very poorly updated about what's happening in the world of Gluckins and Vikers. And on top of doing that job poorly, it's very disjointing, like putting a huge stopper in between sections, and I just don't like it. But on a positive note, when there are puzzles to solve that are entertaining and from time to time challenging, forcing you to stop, think, attempt and try something new. I love that, and thank goodness the puzzles here are a blast, because Oddworld is nothing without its puzzles. And on top of that, the differences between Abe and Munch are at least big enough that it feels necessary to have two characters instead of just saying, why the hell didn't they just make Abe able to swim? Plus, the inclusion of two-person puzzles also helped in making Munch not feel so super useless. He's still freaking useless, but just not super useless. Munch's Oddysee has me feeling a bit torn. I enjoy the series as a whole, and the backbone of Oddworld is strong, and one of the more interesting stories being told in game at the time, but Munch is a piece of shit. I'm sorry to say that, but I dislike the way he controls so much that by halfway through, I started cursing him every time I needed to use him for puzzles. Hey Munch, could you grab me my drink? It's just right there. Yeah, it's just right there, man. Just reach for it. Okay. It shouldn't be that hard. Okay. Hey, Abe, could you help a brother out?
Okay.
Thank you. I like his story, and I'm super happy I got the good ending where you save everyone. But I never in my life want to play as Munch ever again. I think he would have been much better suited as a playable side character that was around for at most half of the levels, and that's it. I still want his story to be there because it's interesting and I really enjoyed it, just not his playable parts in the game. Another thing that was really bugging me is that there needed to be more cutscenes for the storytelling purposes of Munch's Oddysee. I don't mind the newspaper idea, but the fact that it happened so often really started to piss me off. I just wish that they would have thought of a more interesting way to convey what was happening in the world due to Abe's actions. In short, this game is fun, and I will always be excited to get any lore on Oddworld. But the newspapers, and especially Munch's control, really hold this game back from being something special. And the fact that Abe needs to collect giant boogers now to use his chant powers, just something about it really left a sour taste in my mouth. It's just like when they introduced midichlorians in Star Wars. It turned the Force into something that was tangible and measurable instead of a belief that could be tapped into by anyone connected to the Force. I personally didn't care, but I understand why everybody was pissed off. And that's the same thing that happened when they made Abe collect these things to use his abilities that were at one point completely untethered. Those things mixed with the other stuff that I've been talking about, I'm going to have to give Munch's Oddysee a 6 out of 10. But I really want to talk about this book. Oddworld, Abe's Origins is brought to us by the wonderful people at Indie by Design, and all of the still images that I've been using during this review came from this book. And when they sent this to me to review, I wasn't sure at all what it was going to be. I thought it might be a really big art book with little interesting bits here and there. But then I cracked this bad boy open, and the first 23 pages are an interview with the freaking amazing Lorne Lanning, the creative force behind all of Oddworld. I had never heard the name until I had read this book, and now I don't know if I could think more highly of a creator in all of video games. And that's just what the first 23 pages of text did to me. The other 250 pages of this beautiful beast, they just go into deep looks into Abe and the other living inhabitants of Oddworld. It's also mixed with this beautiful artwork, and it covers history on Oddworld itself, while telling you why Oddworld is in the state that it's in during all of the Oddworld games. I mean, look at that. And I gotta say, there is so much put into these games that I now am legally required to reference every Oddworld game as art if anybody ever asks me the question, do you think video games are art or not? Yeah, seriously, so much interesting work has been put into the Oddworld series, and it just makes me look at games like The Last of Us and just say, that ain't got shit on Oddworld. Ain't got shit. I'm yelling a lot, I know, and I'm sorry. But seriously, this book even covers how the Oddworld series was always planned as a quintology, as in 5 video games to tell one giant story. And it even says that in the very first game. Right there, quintology. It blows my mind. I have no clue how long I've had this game, and I never noticed that until I read it in this book. Plus, Abe's Origins also talks about the future of the Oddworld game series, mainly in little bits of nugget of information about Soulstorm, the upcoming game. And it also tells us that we're going to be learning why Abe has his mouth sewn shut in Soulstorm. They also tell us why in the book. And I'm not going to tell you, because the way that they choreograph the information makes it carry the maximum amount of emotional weight. And seriously, by the time you read that part, oh, it just made the deepest cut into my soul. It's beautifully done. Seriously, I cannot recommend this book enough. As a person that loves books for the smell, the weight of the pages, the layout of the pages, this, for the lack of a better and more descriptive word, is beautiful. Seriously, if you're a fan of books and a fan of the Oddworld series, you really should just treat yourself to this amazing chunk of information and art. I mean, hell, I loved this book so much. I actually went out and bought a bunch of strategy guides on other games that I really enjoy, just because I was looking for more information about them in a format like this. Of course, none of these were as beautifully created or had anywhere near as much effort put into them as this one. But seriously, I liked this book so much. I might just read it for a second time. And don't worry, Abe, I will never look at you as a replacement for toilet paper. Unlike other books.
Why would you do that?
And believe it or not, this Oddworld, Abe's Origins, the book I've been talking about this whole time, around 280 beautifully crafted, laid out, heavy quality paper book, does not cost you $100. Nope. Doesn't even cost you $70. Nope. To own this book, all you have to do is go to Indie by Design, which I'm going to have their website linked down in the description below. And to pick this bad boy up, it is only $52 plus shipping. I don't really know what that is. I'm sorry, I don't know. But, oh man, for being just such a wonderfully crafted product, I cannot praise it enough. I loved this book. I cannot wait for Indie by Design to create another book about criminally overlooked video game franchises. And personally, I hope they take a look at The Neverhood next. Because, seriously, if they could give me anywhere near as much information about The Neverhood as they did on Oddworld, I would crap my pants in excitement. Seriously. I would need more toilet paper, and that's a problem because I can't find any anywhere. Thank you for watching another stay-at-home dad game review, and seriously, the biggest, most overwhelming thank you to the people at Indie by Design for sending me a review copy of Oddworld Abe's Origin. I loved it. I seriously can't wait for more. And thank you to my Patreons, Tyler and Robert. I know this is a really weird time to be supporting somebody like me on YouTube, but I really do appreciate it. And to all of you out there that just took the time to watch my video, hopefully it lightened your spirits some in this ridiculous time that we live in right now of people hoarding toilet paper, and I haven't been able to find ground beef for the life of me anywhere. It's driving me crazy. I just want to make food that I normally make. But, back on topic. Thank you all so much. I hope you really enjoyed it. Go ahead and show your love to the people at Indie by Design, because they seriously put in so much work, and they deserve all the praises that they can get. So please, go support them, and be safe out there, everybody. I love you. I'll see you next time.